So in the last class, we were discussing about the different components of taxonomy, and we had already discussed about identification. Today, we'll start with nomenclature and classification. So what is nomenclature? Nomenclature means giving scientific names to organisms. Okay. So, we know that when a baby is born, we usually keep a name to identify that person. Okay, like that only scientific names are given to organisms to identify or address that particular organism. Okay, but why scientific names? Why not the local names that we know? Okay, because we know that for one particular organism, we have different names according to the different places. Okay, and say for example for mango, in Nepali we call it aam, Hindi aam. Yes, so we have different names for one particular organism. Okay, so in order to avoid the confusion, all right, in order to avoid all the confusion of having different names for one organism, okay, taxonomists, they keep only one single scientific name to avoid all the confusions regarding that particular organism. Okay, that's why we keep a scientific name. Okay, so why scientific name? To avoid confusion of having different names for one organism. So we have to keep a one standard name, scientific name. All over the world, that particular organism will be known by that particular scientific name. Okay, say for example, we already studied Mangifera indica. This is the scientific name for your mango. Yes, so all over the world, Mangifera indica means the mango. Okay, so to avoid all the confusions, we keep one scientific name for one organism. Okay, and now there is a system. In order to in order to give a scientific name to organisms also, we have to follow certain rules. All right, so there is a certain system of naming the scientific names also, and that system is known as your binomial nomenclature. Okay, so binomial nomenclature. Bi means two, nomial names. So naming, giving these binomial nomenclature. In this binomial nomenclature of system of naming scientific names, the scientific name consists of two parts. Bi, two names. Okay, so that's why it's known as your binomial nomenclature, and this was first introduced by Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, so Linnaeus, we already talked in the first class that Linnaeus is also known as the father of taxonomy because he has done extensive work in the field of taxonomy. So one such important contribution of Linnaeus is introduction of your binomial nomenclature. Okay, the system of giving scientific names to organisms. Okay, so let us learn a little more about the binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature. What is binomial nomenclature? This is a two-word naming system of organisms. Okay, and for example, I've given a number of examples here. Mangifera indica, Homo sapiens, Zea mays. So Mangifera indica is a scientific name for your mango, Homo sapiens is for the man, and Zea mays for the maize. So in this case, in all the three cases, you can see that the scientific name is made up of two parts. The first part here, this is your genus name. The second part is your specific epithet. In this case also, the Homo is the genus name and the sapiens is the species name. Zea, genus name, maize is your species name. Okay, so binomial nomenclature means two-word naming system of organisms. Okay, so now there are two codes of nomenclature. Okay, now codes means your rules and recommendations. There are certain rules you have to follow when you have to name an organism. Okay, so that rules for different rules for plants, for naming plants, are different from rules for naming the animals. So the rules for naming the plants the rules is known as the code. Okay, so the code is the full form of the code is International Code of Nomenclature for Algae, Fungi and Plants. Okay, so it is a short form. You can write ICN. So this ICN is the set of rules, all right, that are set about to name the different plants, to give scientific names to plants. Okay, earlier this code was earlier not known as ICN. It was known as International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. But now the name has changed to International Code of Nomenclature for Algae, Fungi and Plants. Okay, this is the short form is ICN. For the rule set for the animals is the ICZN, that is International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. So just remember that while you are naming or while you are giving the scientific names to organisms, you have to follow certain rules and regulations. Okay, so we will now discuss about the different rules of nomenclature. Okay, so these are some of the rules of nomenclature. Okay, so the first rule that you have to follow is the names must be written in the Latin language. You have to follow the Latin language or its derivative. Okay, so all those scientific names are derived from your Latin language. Okay, so for example, you have your Homo sapiens. Okay, in Latin language, Homo means your man, human, and sapiens means your wise. So together it's known as your wise man. Okay, so therefore all the names, the scientific names, are derived from your Latin language. Next, the scientific name, again we already discussed this. The scientific name consists of two parts. One is your genus name and the species name. Okay, and next when you look closely, you will see that the genus name starts with a capital letter always, and the species name always starts with your small letter. Okay, so you should, when you write the scientific names, that is how you write it. And in case of if the scientific names are handwritten, so like right now I just wrote it on the board. Okay, so if it is handwritten, then it must be underlined separately. The genus name and the species name must be underlined separately, not together. It must be underlined separately. Okay, or if it is printed, okay, if it is printed in the textbooks, okay, so it must be written in your italics. All right, so in your textbooks, if you see, all the scientific names are written in a slanting writing. Okay, so that is known as your italics. All right, okay, the species name, okay, or the specific epithet must be a descriptive one. That means the species name must say something about that particular organism. Say for example, in case of your rice, the scientific name is Oryza sativa. Okay, this is the genus name, this is your species name. The species name must say something, must give any information about this particular plant. Okay, so in this case, sativa, in Latin language, sativa means you're cultivated. Okay, so it means cultivated. Or in case of another plant, say for example, Hygrophila spinosa. This species name denotes that this plant has spines. Okay. So the species name must give any type of information. So it must be a descriptive one. Next, the names which are used prior to the publication of species Plantarum and Systema Naturae is not approved. So Linnaeus, again, Linnaeus is also known as the father of taxonomy. Okay, because of his extensive work. Again, I'm telling you, Okay, and he's contributed to two important books. What are the names of the books? Species Plantarum, in which he has described a number of plants. Okay, Species Plantarum, that was published in 1753. And another book is there that is known as Systema Naturae. That was published, the 10th edition of Systema Naturae was published in 1758. Okay, so the Systema Naturae 10th edition, right? So any names, any other taxonomists who had already used any other scientific name, all right, prior to this publication of these two books, all right, those scientific names cannot be approved, all right, it is not regarded valid, all right. So that, remember the names of the books, Species Plantarum, okay, and another one is where number of scientific names of plants have been used by Linnaeus, and in Systema Naturae a number of scientific names have been used for animals, all right, and any other scientific name before this publication of this, if this publication of these two books, if it has been used, then those scientific names will not be valid. All right, so thinking of this Systema Naturae. Okay, now this book Systema Naturae, Systema means in Latin language. Remember, Systema in Latin language. This means systematic. Systematic arrangement or systematic. Okay, systematic means in order. All right, so in the first class we had talked about taxonomy and systematics. So the word systematics is actually derived from this word systema, okay, which was the title of the book written by Linnaeus. All right, so the term systematics has been coined by whom? It is coined by Carolus Linnaeus. Whereas your taxonomy was used, the taxonomy word was first coined by A.P.D. Candolle. Systematics is coined by Carolus Linnaeus. Okay. The next point is the name of the author who first described the particular species is written after the species name in an abbreviated or a short form. All right. So if I am giving you an example, in this case, so in case of this Mangifera indica, after the species name, I have written Lin dot. Okay, Lin stands, that is an abbreviated form of Linnaeus. So Linnaeus is credited with the description of this mango. All right, so therefore when he first described this species, therefore his name is also written after the name of the species in an abbreviated form. So Lin here stands for Linnaeus. Okay, so another rule of nomenclature is the law of priority. Okay, so in case if there is one organism, okay, and two different authors, they have named that particular organism. So when there are two or more names for one organism or one taxon, then by two different authors, then which name? To avoid confusion, you have to select one name. So which name is selected? The one that is first used, okay, that is accepted and it is regarded as valid, whereas the one that was named after that is rejected, it is not regarded valid. Say for example, if I'm saying, say for example, two different authors, say X and Y, okay, two different authors have named one organism, that is suppose mango, one organism, two different authors has given names, okay. So Mangifera indica in 1780, say for example, and another one Mangifera in sativa, suppose Mangifera sativa in 1790. So which of the two names are preferred, or which of the two names are actually taken into consideration? It is this one, Mangifera indica, which was published in 1780. So this is given, this is regarded as the valid name. The other one is regarded as the synonym, right? So that is your synonym. Now, sometimes what also happens is there is only one name, okay? So, identical names are used to address two different organisms, okay? So, and in that case, what happens? The one that is first used, that name is taken as the valid name, the other is regarded as the homo name and it is rejected. So, say for example, okay, so say for example, two different authors has named for two different organisms the same name. Okay, so Cuvier, one scientist, he named Echidna for what? For spiny anteaters. All right, and another author, that is Foster, he named the same name Echidna for another type of animal, that is moray eels. Okay, but if you look at the dates, which one will be selected? Which name will be selected as the valid name? It will be the Echidna for the moray eels, because this is described earlier. It was named earlier, all right, than this. So therefore, this will be given priority, all right. Whereas for the spiny anteater, another name has to be taken up. So this is the laws of your priority. Okay, so we move on to the last component of taxonomy, that is your classification. Okay, so what is classification? It is the arrangement of organisms into groups, which is based on the similarities between the organisms. So we place the organisms, like organisms, in one group. Okay, and now this Linnaeus is also he's also credited with giving a system or a method of classification. Okay, that is known as your taxonomic hierarchy. Okay, so since he introduced this method of classification, so therefore this taxonomic hierarchy, this system is known as taxonomic hierarchy. So it is also known as Linnaean hierarchy. It is also known as a Linnaean hierarchy, and this is a particular method of classification. So if you want to classify an organism also, you have to follow this method. You have to follow this particular rule of classifying. All right, and that method is known as a taxonomic hierarchy or Linnaean hierarchy. All right, so how do we define taxonomic hierarchy? Taxonomic hierarchy is when we are arranging the organisms in taxonomic hierarchy method, we have to arrange the organism systematically. So taxonomic hierarchy is the systematic arrangement of taxonomic groups or categories in a descending order from the highest rank to the lowest rank. All right, so we'll understand this definition. You'll understand what is taxonomic hierarchy when I discuss one example with you all. All right, so taxonomic hierarchy, you remember, is also known as the Linnaean hierarchy. It's the systematic arrangement of taxonomic groups or categories in a descending order. All right, so we'll understand taxonomic hierarchy with the help of a simple example here. All right, so taxonomic hierarchy means, this hierarchy here, this means ranking. Okay, we are placing from the highest level to the lowest level. And what are we ranking? We are ranking these groups. These are known as your taxonomic categories. So we'll name the different groups: kingdom, phylum, okay, class, order, family, genus, and species. Okay, so kingdom is regarded as the highest rank. Okay, below that is the phylum, class, order, family, genus, and the lowest level is given to the species. All right, so this is a system of ranking. The different groups are placed in different ranks, with kingdom being the highest. So in case of animals, phylum, the level below the kingdom is phylum. All right, but in case of plants, another another taxonomic category is used. This is known as division. It's only for plants. Phylum is for animals. So let us understand this. So if you are to classify any organism, we have to follow this method of naming them according to this taxonomic, not naming, I'm sorry, classifying them according to this taxonomic hierarchy. Okay, so say for example, we need to classify an organism, say tiger. Okay, so this animal in this organism in question, okay, if we look at it, if we observe it, what external characters do we see? We can group this organism into the most broadest category by looking at its most general character. Okay, and its general character says that it's not a plant, it cannot photosynthesize, okay, it does not have a cell wall. All right, so there are many characters which show that tiger is an animal, not a plant. So the broadest category here, the broadest category in which this organism can be grouped is kingdom Animalia. Okay, so this is the broadest category and we group this organism as animals. All right, but in animals, there are other different animals also. So say for example, we have jellyfish, earthworms, birds, insects, all the different types of animals. Okay, but animals also mean simple animals like hydra, jellyfish, okay, earthworms, birds, insects, any man, anything. But our animal in question here, okay, we need to see that in the next level, this animal here, we are talking about this animal with not the ones that have no backbone, but the ones that have the backbone. Okay, so in the next level, we will group them into another group, that is phylum Chordata. Chordata means the ones that have a notochord. Organisms or animals having a notochord is known as the chordata. Okay, so this organisms includes all the animals such as the ones that have a particular backbone. Okay, so we reject out here, we reject all the animals like your jellyfish, earthworm, insects, the hydra having no notochord. Okay, so here we are talking about our animal in question is an animal with a notochord. So therefore it's a chordata. Okay, in the next level, chordata, the phylum Chordata has many different types of animals. Okay, so in this case, say for example, we have your birds. We talk about reptiles. So all these are the organisms having a notochord. Birds, fishes, mammals. Okay, but our animal in question here is, out of all these options, our animal here is a mammal. So in the next category, that is your class, we keep our animal in Mammalia. Okay, so in the next level, mammals are also, in case in the group of mammals, what do we see? Different types of, and what are the different types of animals that we see? We can talk about the mammals that are rodents. Okay, rodents. We can talk about rodents are the rats and all. Cetaceans are the whale, dolphins, they come under cetaceans. They are also mammals. All right. Or even primates. Primates are also mammals. Mammals are the ones that have a body hair and has a mammary gland. Okay. So all these different groups have mammary glands and body hairs. So they are all mammals. All right. But our animal in question here again, out of all these different mammals, is carnivores. Okay, so we keep them in the next taxonomic category as carnivora. Okay, in carnivora also there are different types of carnivores. All right, so carnivores are of different types. So say the carnivores with the long snout, those come under the dog family, and the carnivores that don't have a long snout, that they come under the cat family. All right, and our animal in question here is of the, not from the dog family, but from the cat family. So the cat family is known as your Felidae. It has certain features of cat, so it is known as your Felidae. All right, so the taxonomic category that we use here is your family Felidae. All right, so in case of your family, cat family also, you can see tigers, leopards, okay, lions, those are the big cats. And the ones that are the small cats, or the house or domesticated cats, they come in the small cats. So our animal in question here is, the animal in question here comes under the big cats. Okay, so there is a particular name that is kept here for the big cats, that is Panthera. Okay, so all the big cats, Panthera, for tiger it is Panthera tigris, for lion it is Panthera leo. So they are all big cats. For leopard, Panthera pardus. So all of them they come under the big cats. So in the next category, category, that is the genus, we keep our animal in question under Panthera. Okay, so lastly, at the most basic or the most lowest level of your taxonomic hierarchy, we are talking about the different Panthera, different types of genus Panthera, Leo, Panthera, Pardus, Panthera tigris. So there are different animals under this group, that is Panthera. All right. So, but our animal in question here is Panthera tigris. So at the most basic level, we write Panthera tigris. Okay. So when you look at this taxonomic hierarchy, what we can see is, we are organizing or grouping the organisms or animals or plants, okay, from the broadest category. Okay, this has the most general characters. This taxonomic category, that is kingdom, has the most general character to more specific characters. Okay, so from the broadest category, we are moving on to more specific categories. All right, so this is the system of arrangement of the organisms. This is known as a taxonomic hierarchy. Okay, so now what are the different types of, here we need to know the different categories here. The categories again is kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Okay, we can also remember this by a mnemonic, that is king, K for king, Philip, P, Philip, came, C for came, O, out, for, F for, a garden stroll. Okay, so King Philip came out from a garden stroll. So that is kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So, and this side, what do we see? These are the different groups. Now, we need to understand two different important definitions. Now we come across the word taxon. Okay, so what is taxon? Taxon means this is a group of organisms having similar features. Okay, that can be grouped as a unit, that can be taken or classified as a unit. So we'll first write out taxon. What is taxon? Taxon means it is a group of organisms having similar features or similar characters. A group of organisms having similar characters that are classified as a unit. So say for example, okay, say for example mammals, mammalia. Okay, so all the mammals that have a similar feature, that have your body hair on your mammary glands, so they come under the group mammalia. Okay, so this group may be very diverse. It may include organisms such as your apes, or such as your dogs, or even rats, or even your whales. So it includes different organisms. So, but they share a similar feature, that is mammary glands and body hair. So they can be grouped as in one as a unit. So that is known as a taxon. So mammalia becomes, all the mammals become one taxon. Okay, likewise, all the carnivores, okay, all the carnivores, they come under, they form one unit. Okay, so this is also a taxon. Okay, all animals which have a notochord, they come under chordates. Okay, and all animals at the species level, if you see, all the animals at the species level, all the animals here in this example are tigers. So you don't have different animals in the species level. We include in the species level, we have animals or organisms of the same type. Okay, only the same type. All are the tigers. All the tigers are one unit or one taxon. So what is species? Species are, so how can we define species? Species are organisms, similar organisms, okay, that can interbreed amongst themselves to produce fertile offspring. Okay, in some cases, say for example, in a horse and a donkey, okay, if they mate, interbreeding occurs, suppose, then the offspring is a mule. All right, so an offspring is formed, but in that case the mule is sterile. That means the mule will not be able to produce its own offsprings. All right, so it is sterile. So the correct definition of your species is organisms which are similar and which can interbreed amongst themselves, and they produce the offsprings which are fertile. So that is your example of, that is your definition of your species. So all the tigers, they are the members of the tigers, they can interbreed amongst themselves and they can produce the offsprings of their own kind. So therefore they are regarded as a species. All right. Okay. Now what about this? You understood what is taxon? Taxon means again a group of organisms having similar characters which can be grouped as one. Just like all the mammals, they are one taxon. All the carnivores, they are one taxon. Right? So all the cat family, okay, they are one taxon. Another definition that you should know here is, another definition that you see here is taxonomic category or taxonomic ranks. So this taxonomic ranks that we saw here, all right, this is also known as a taxonomic category, all right, and what are those? Those are the ranks or the level or the position of the taxon. All right, so in case of the position or the rank class, okay, the tiger, our example, the Panthera tigris or the tiger is it forms a taxon along with the humans. Okay, because humans and tigers, we share common characters such as the body hair and the mammary glands. So humans and the tiger forms a taxon in the level of the class. So the taxonomic category class, okay, it denotes the rank of the taxon in the taxonomic hierarchy. All right, so this is your taxonomic category or taxonomic ranks. So it denotes the level or the position of the taxon in the taxonomic hierarchy. All right. Okay, sometimes now during the earlier or the classical taxonomy, these 7 taxonomic categories that we used: kingdom, class, order, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Okay, so earlier, okay, or classical taxonomy, we used these 7 taxonomic categories, all right? But nowadays in modern taxonomy, there are different the taxonomists or different scientists have introduced more taxonomic categories, such as your in between the phylum and class also, they have formed another taxonomic category which is known as subphylum. Okay, or in between family and genus, they've kept subfamily. Okay, or subclass. So more number of taxonomic categories have been introduced in the modern taxonomy. Okay, and below the, in case of your taxonomic hierarchy or the linear hierarchy, species is regarded as the unit. Okay, unit of the whole taxonomic hierarchy is your species. So Linnaeus has not subdivided the species level. All right, so it is the most basic or the unit of the whole classification system. So, but now modern taxonomists, they have included a taxonomic category even below the species level, that is known as the subspecies. Okay, it is known as the subspecies. So one example will be your, in case of your so we know that at the species level, the tiger was known as your Panthera tigris. Yes, but if we include the subspecies also, then the tiger is known as the scientific name of the tiger will be Panthera tigris. Okay, and this Panthera tigris denotes the Bengal tiger. It denotes the Bengal tiger, which has some differences with the Sumatran tiger. Okay, so the Sumatran tiger is also, the genus and the species name is same in case of Sumatran tiger. Okay, it is, the genus is the same, species is also the same, but in case of the name changes in the subspecies level, that in this case it is known as the Panthera tigris sondaica. All right, so Sumatran tiger and Bengal tiger, they are same, but they can interbreed, but they have certain slight differences in their physical features. All right, but still they can interbreed. So therefore they are kept in the, they are divided at the subspecies level into Panthera tigris and Panthera tigris sondaica. All right, so new taxonomic categories have been introduced in modern taxonomy. Okay, so what is the need? So what is the need for classifying organisms? Okay, so we know that there are millions of varieties of plants and animals. Okay, almost approximately 1.8 million species are there, and some are yet to be discovered also. Okay, so we cannot study each and every organism. All right, so in order to make the study more simpler, we group the organisms or classify organisms. Okay, so that is one need for classification. Next, it helps to identify the different organisms also. And when we are classifying organisms, we are looking at the similarities between organisms. Okay, and therefore this will also help us to learn or decipher the different interrelationship between the different organisms. Okay, so we are grouping them according to similarities. So we group them we group the organisms in groups with similar organisms, okay, which share more common ancestors. So therefore, it helps to study the interrelationship between the different organisms. Okay, so with this, we finish off with the second chapter, that is taxonomy and systematics.